To journey into the heart of Papua New Guinea is to step back in time. It is a world where nature's grandeur remains almost overwhelming, a place of towering, cloud-shrouded mountains, deep, winding river valleys, and some of the most extensive and untouched rainforests left on our planet. Here, the hum of insects and the calls of exotic birds form a constant, living symphony. This is a land that has, for millennia, held its secrets close, shielded from the outside world by its formidable geography. Its remoteness has allowed for the flourishing of life in countless extraordinary forms, not just in the trees and rivers, but most remarkably among its people. It is a nation that feels ancient and yet is, in political terms, very young. This remarkable country is often called the land of the unexpected, and for very good reason. For every turn in its rugged landscape, there seems to be a new surprise, a different way of life, a unique expression of human culture. Imagine a single nation that is home to over 800 distinct languages. This is not a relic of a forgotten past. It is the living, breathing reality of Papua New Guinea today. Each language represents a unique worldview, a different set of traditions, and a history passed down not in books, but through stories, songs, and intricate ceremonies. This linguistic richness is a testament to the thousands of years of human history that have unfolded here in relative isolation, allowing separate communities to develop their own profound connection to their ancestral lands. The sheer diversity of its people is simply astonishing. From the coastal communities who have long mastered the art of navigating the turquoise waters of the Pacific, to the highland tribes who cultivate their gardens on steep, terraced slopes, the variety of human adaptation is on full display. These are societies built on complex systems of kinship, trade, and ritual. For centuries, their worlds were defined by the next valley or the neighboring island. This separation fostered a fierce sense of identity and independence, creating a mosaic of cultures that is unparalleled anywhere else on Earth. To understand Papua New Guinea is to appreciate that it is not one single story, but a collection of thousands of individual stories, all woven together into the fabric of a single nation. And yet, this world of ancient traditions is now facing the full force of the 21st century. The modern world, with its promise of development and its insatiable demand for resources, is knocking at the door. The people of Papua New Guinea are navigating a difficult path, seeking to embrace the opportunities of the future without losing the precious heritage that makes them so unique. Their story is a powerful reminder of the resilience of the human spirit and the vital importance of preserving the cultural diversity that enriches our entire planet. It is a journey of discovery, not just for them, but for all of us who seek to understand the full, wonderful spectrum of human experience. The human story in this part of the world is one of the oldest on Earth. Long before the Great Pyramids were built in Egypt, and even before the last ice age had fully loosened its grip on the planet, people were making their home on the vast island of New Guinea. Archaeological evidence suggests that the first humans arrived here at least 50,000 years ago. These were some of the world's earliest seafarers, daring explorers who navigated the ocean waters from Southeast Asia on simple rafts or canoes. They found a land that was then connected to Australia, a supercontinent known as Sahul, teeming with strange and wonderful creatures, many of which are now long extinct. These early inhabitants were incredibly resourceful and adaptable. They spread across the island, from the warm, humid coastlines to the cool, rugged highlands. Over thousands of years, they developed sophisticated ways of living in harmony with their environment. In the highlands around 9,000 years ago, people began to cultivate the land. This makes the highlands of New Guinea one of the few places on Earth where agriculture was independently invented. They drained swamps and planted crops like taro, bananas, and sugarcane, transforming the landscape into productive gardens. This ancient agricultural knowledge, passed down through countless generations, is still practiced in many parts of the country today, a living link to a deep and innovative past. The island's challenging terrain played a crucial role in shaping its human landscape. The steep mountains and dense jungles acted as natural barriers, separating communities from one another. This isolation allowed for the incredible diversification we see today. Groups living in one valley might have no contact with those in the next, leading them to develop their own unique languages, customs, and social structures. It is this long history of separation that explains why a country smaller than Spain can be home to more than a tenth of the world's total languages. Each language is a library of knowledge about the local environment, oral history, and cultural identity, a precious inheritance from these first peoples. For millennia, these societies thrived without written words. History was not recorded in books but was held in the collective memory of the community. It was sung in epic poems, danced in elaborate ceremonies, and carved into the designs of masks and shields. The knowledge of how to build a house, how to hunt, which plants were medicinal, and how to appease the spirits was all passed down from elder to child through oral tradition. This way of life fostered a deep spiritual connection to the land, where every mountain, river, and forest was imbued with meaning and inhabited by ancestral spirits. This profound relationship with the natural world remains a cornerstone of Papua New Guinean culture. For tens of thousands of years, the island of New Guinea remained a world unto itself. But eventually, the age of global exploration brought outsiders to its shores. The first documented European contact came in the 16th century with Portuguese and Spanish navigators. They were sailing the vast Pacific in search of spices and new trade routes. Men like Jorge de Menezes, a Portuguese explorer, are said to have landed here in 1526, naming it Ilhas dos Papuas, a reference to the frizzled hair of the local people. Later, the Spanish explorer Íñigo Ortiz de Retes sailed along the coast in 1545, and seeing a resemblance in the people to those he had seen on the Guinea coast of Africa, named the island Nueva Guinea, or New Guinea. These early encounters were often fleeting and had little immediate impact on the lives of the island's inhabitants, who were far more concerned with their own local affairs of trade, ritual, and warfare. For the next few centuries, New Guinea remained largely a mystery to the outside world, a place on the map marked with warnings of here be dragons. It was not until the 19th century that European interest intensified, driven by the ambitions of colonial empires. The Dutch had already claimed the western half of the island, but the eastern half now became a target for both Germany and Britain, who were competing for territory and resources across the globe. In 1884, this rivalry led to the formal division of the eastern half of the island. Germany raised its flag over the northeastern part, establishing a colony it called German New Guinea. At the same time, Britain established a protectorate over the southeastern part, which became known as British New Guinea. This arbitrary line, drawn on a map in Europe, cut across traditional lands and tribal boundaries, paying no attention to the complex societies that had existed there for millennia. The lives of the people were now to be shaped by distant powers with entirely different laws, languages, and motivations, marking the beginning of a profound and often disruptive transformation. The colonial administrations brought profound changes. They introduced new forms of governance, imposed foreign laws, and established plantations for crops like coconuts and rubber, often recruiting local labor under harsh conditions. Christian missionaries also arrived in large numbers, seeking to convert the people from their ancestral beliefs. While they brought education and medicine, their work also challenged and sometimes eroded traditional cultural practices. For the people of New Guinea, this era was a bewildering clash of worlds. They were forced to navigate the demands of their colonial rulers while striving to hold on to their own identities and ways of life, a struggle that would define their history for decades to come. The first half of the 20th century brought yet another wave of global turmoil to the shores of New Guinea. After Germany's defeat in World War I, its colony in the north was handed over to Australia to administer as a League of Nations mandate. This meant that the entire eastern half of the island, which would one day become Papua New Guinea, was now under Australian control. For a time, life continued under this new administration, a slow and steady process of colonial governance. But this relative peace was shattered by the outbreak of World War II, a conflict that would turn the island into one of the most brutal and significant battlegrounds of the Pacific War. In 1942, the Empire of Japan, expanding rapidly across Southeast Asia and the Pacific, invaded New Guinea. Their goal was to capture Port Moresby, a strategic Allied base on the southern coast. From there, they could threaten Australia directly. This began a series of ferocious campaigns fought in some of the most difficult terrain imaginable. The Japanese forces advanced overland across the rugged Owen Stanley Range, leading to the legendary Kokoda Track Campaign. Here, Australian soldiers, vastly outnumbered, fought a desperate, heroic battle to halt the Japanese advance in a grueling struggle through mud, mountains, and disease-ridden jungles. Throughout this terrible conflict, the people of Papua New Guinea played a crucial and often unsung role. They were caught in the middle of a war between powerful foreign armies, and their villages and gardens were destroyed. Yet thousands of Papuan and New Guinean men served alongside the Allied forces. They acted as scouts, guides, and most famously, as porters, carrying supplies and evacuating wounded soldiers over treacherous mountain paths. Australian soldiers gave these brave carriers the affectionate nickname the Fuzzy Wuzzy Angels for their kindness and dedication. Their intimate knowledge of the land and their physical endurance were absolutely vital to the Allied victory. The war left deep scars on the land and its people, but it also brought about profound social change. For the first time, many islanders witnessed the immense power and technology of the industrialized world. They saw vast armies, aircraft, and machines. They also saw that the white colonial masters were not invincible. This experience planted the seeds of a new political consciousness. The shared struggle and the exposure to new ideas began to foster a sense of a common identity among different tribes, a feeling that they were all part of something larger than their own village or clan. The end of the war marked the beginning of a new chapter, one that would lead inexorably towards self-rule. After the devastation of World War II, Australia combined its two territories, the former British New Guinea or Papua and the former German New Guinea, into a single administrative entity called the Territory of Papua and New Guinea. The experience of the war had changed the world's view on colonialism, and the United Nations began to pressure Australia to prepare the territory for self-government and eventual independence. This was, honestly, an immense task. The challenge was not just to build the institutions of a modern state, such as a parliament, a legal system, and public services, but to forge a single national identity out of hundreds of distinct and often rivalrous tribal groups. The journey towards independence was gradual but steady. Australia began to invest more in education and healthcare, and it started to create opportunities for local people to participate in government. A legislative council was established, and over the years more and more seats were filled by elected Papua New Guinean representatives. A new generation of leaders began to emerge, men and women who had been educated in mission schools and who had a vision for a united, independent nation. One of the most prominent of these figures was Michael Samara, a former teacher and radio broadcaster who would become the country's first prime minister and is widely revered as the father of the nation. Creating a sense of national unity was perhaps the greatest challenge of all. For centuries, a person's primary loyalty was to their family, their clan, and their village. The idea of being a citizen of a nation called Papua New Guinea was entirely new. The leaders of the independence movement had to travel extensively across the country, from the remote highlands to the scattered islands, to explain this new concept and build support. They promoted a national flag, a national anthem, and a new constitution that recognized the country's cultural diversity. They chose English as one of the official languages to facilitate communication, alongside Tok Pisin, a widely spoken pidgin language that helped bridge the gap between different linguistic groups. Finally, on September 16, 1975, Papua New Guinea achieved its independence peacefully in a moving ceremony in Port Moresby. The Australian flag was lowered for the last time, and the new, vibrant flag of Papua New Guinea, with its red, black and gold colours and the iconic bird of paradise, was raised. It was a moment of immense pride and optimism. For the first time in almost a century, the people of this diverse land were masters of their own destiny. They had successfully united over 800 different cultures under a single banner, embarking on the great and ongoing experiment of building a modern nation while honouring an ancient past. Achieving independence was a momentous achievement, but it was also the beginning of a new and difficult journey. Running a modern nation with such incredible cultural and geographical diversity has presented enormous challenges. The country's political landscape has often been turbulent. With so many different groups and interests to represent, forming stable coalition governments has been difficult. This has sometimes led to political instability, corruption, and struggles to deliver essential services like healthcare and education to remote communities. The very diversity that makes Papua New Guinea so unique also makes it one of the most complex countries in the world to govern. One of the most tragic and difficult chapters in the nation's post-independence history has been the conflict on the island of Bougainville. The island is rich in copper, and a massive mine was opened there in the 1970s. While the mine generated enormous wealth for the national government and the foreign mining company, many people on Bougainville felt that they were not receiving a fair share of the benefits and that the mine was causing catastrophic environmental damage to their ancestral lands. These grievances erupted into a secessionist movement and a devastating civil war that lasted for a decade, from 1988 to 1998, causing immense suffering and loss of life. The Bougainville conflict highlights a central dilemma for modern Papua New Guinea: how to manage its abundant natural resources. The country is rich in minerals like gold, copper and natural gas, as well as timber and fish. These resources offer a path to economic development, a way to fund schools, hospitals and roads. However, their extraction often comes at a high environmental cost and can create social tensions. Disputes over land ownership, the distribution of royalties, and environmental pollution from mining and logging operations remain a constant source of conflict. Balancing the need for economic growth with the protection of the environment and the rights of local landowners is one of the most critical challenges the nation faces. Despite these struggles, the people of Papua New Guinea have shown remarkable resilience. The Bougainville conflict eventually ended with a peace agreement that granted the island a high degree of autonomy and the promise of a future referendum on independence. The nation continues to grapple with the challenges of governance and development, seeking its own path forward. It is in many ways a young country learning to navigate the complexities of the globalized world. The story of modern Papua New Guinea is one of constant negotiation between tradition and modernity, between local and national interests, and between the promise of wealth and the preservation of its priceless natural and cultural heritage. Even in the face of modern pressures, the cultural heart of Papua New Guinea beats with extraordinary strength and vibrancy. This is a country where tradition is not a museum piece, it is a living, breathing part of daily life. Perhaps the most spectacular display of this enduring spirit can be seen in the country's cultural festivals or sing-sings. At events like the Goroka Show or the Mount Hagen Show, hundreds of different tribal groups gather together in a breathtaking spectacle of color, music, and dance. Each group arrives dressed in its most magnificent traditional attire, adorned with feathers from the bird of paradise, intricate shell necklaces, and faces painted with bold, symbolic designs passed down through generations. The artistic traditions of Papua New Guinea are as diverse as its people. The art here is not made simply for decoration. It is deeply connected to the spiritual and social life of the community. In the Sepik River region, for instance, artisans are renowned for their powerful and intricate wood carvings. They create elaborate masks, storyboards, and ancestral figures that are used in ceremonies and serve as a connection to the spirit world. In other regions, people create stunning textiles from bark cloth, known as tapa, or weave beautiful baskets and bags called bilums, whose patterns often tell a story about the weaver's clan and identity. These art forms are a vital way of preserving and transmitting cultural knowledge. The preservation of the country's 800-plus languages is another critical frontier. A language is more than just a set of words. It is a unique way of seeing the world. When a language is lost, a whole universe of knowledge, stories, and traditions disappears with it. Many communities in Papua New Guinea are fighting to keep their languages alive, encouraging young people to speak them and documenting the knowledge of the elders. This effort is a race against time, as the influence of English and Tok Pisin grows. Yet the very existence of this linguistic diversity remains one of the country's greatest treasures and a profound contribution to the heritage of all humanity. In the end, Papua New Guinea stands as a powerful testament to the resilience and diversity of the human spirit. It remains one of the last frontiers on Earth, a place where one can still witness ways of life that have been shaped over millennia. The journey of its people, from their ancient origins to their struggles for independence and their navigation of the modern world, is a story of remarkable strength. They are the guardians of an incredible cultural and biological inheritance. As the world becomes more and more uniform, the living mosaic of Papua New Guinea reminds us of the profound beauty and importance of diversity, a lesson that is more vital now than ever before.